Call me into order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Your way ahead of me. I pledge allegiance. Tonight, the invocation will be given by lay leader James Bingham from the Sunrise United Methodist Church. Thank you, James, for coming at the last minute. Appreciate it.
Well, thank you for inviting Sunrise to give the invocation, and Pastor Tom sends his regrets that he could not be here tonight. Would you pray with me?
Sure.
Almighty God, we give you thanks and praise for this day and for all the blessings you give us, Lord, and the opportunities to live one more day on your planet Earth. Lord, I ask your blessings and for these town elected officials and town staff, lead, guide, and direct them so that they may be effective and dutiful city servants for the residents of Holly Springs. Father, I ask your blessings on our American servicemen and women who are in harm's way all over the world tonight, defending our freedoms and liberties that allow us to live in this great city and this great state and this great nation. In your holy name I pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, James. Appreciate it. Item number 4, adjustment approval of the March 3rd, 2015 meeting agenda. Mayor Pro Tem. We did have a change.
Motion to adopt the March 3rd, 2015 meeting agenda with removal from the business agenda of 8B, the business group exercise class and gym program memberships.
Second. Motion been made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Item number 5 is the public comment period. And just as a reminder, we have a new piece of information. The town clerk has the timer, so I don't have to do the stopwatch anymore. And again, we're going to ask you to keep your comments to 3 minutes. And you can see this timer if she turns it around. Thank you very much. So we'll open a public comment period, and first person signed up is Amy Southwick. Amy, please come forward to the podium, name and address, and we appreciate it.
Good evening. My name is Amy Southwick. My address is 105 Leafy Holly Drive here in Holly Springs. And tonight I would like to speak about animal welfare, specifically our town's ordinance regarding animal cruelty, Ordinance 12-65, letter C. It's regards to providing adequate shelter for animals and maintaining a clean and healthy environment. I specifically want to refer to the wording used in the ordinance. I am interested in having more specific wording included in our town's ordinance because I feel like the word adequate can be interpreted many different ways, and that word is used fairly frequently, so it can leave some room for interpretation. So what I would love to see happen is more specific wording used in appropriate shelter for animals, especially those who are kept outside. And as you all know, with our frigid temperatures as of recent, seeing these dogs around town is heartbreaking that are outdoors. So trying to speak on behalf of those animals, I would appreciate including more specifics, and I can only compare it to maybe neighboring cities or towns. For example, Raleigh's has a dog shelter needs to have 3 sides, must have a floor, so therefore the ground would not be considered a floor for the animal, and it must have proper insulation or heating source. And I think that would be a good start in terms of adequate shelter for our animals that are, and our pets that are kept outdoors, especially in single-digit temperatures. Also, regarding the fine for those owners who do not adhere to the ordinance, currently it's, if I'm not mistaken, it's at $50 per day. And I would like this increased so that the owners have more responsibility to take these matters into consideration and make appropriate corrections to the way their animals are kept outdoors.
Okay.
That's all.
That's good.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Amy, appreciate that.
Thank you so very much.
Second person is Catherine Chenis. Catherine? Oh, you came together, huh? All right. And again, name and address, please.
Okay. My name is Catherine Chanis. I reside at 301 Covenant Rock Lane in Holly Springs in the Holly Glen subdivision. Currently, Holly Springs does not have a tethering law for dogs kept outside. I'd like to propose a no tethering ordinance. I'd like Holly Springs, town of Holly Springs, and you all sitting here today to consider adopting an ordinance similar to what town of Raleigh has right now. Under the Raleigh ordinance, a dog may not be tethered for more than 3 hours in a 24-hour period. This ordinance seeks to prevent dogs from being exposed to harsh weather conditions without access to appropriate shelter. I'd like to also, as Amy had stated, also increase the violation amount from $50 a day maximum to $100 per day in hopes that current owners would more seriously take actions to these matters. And again, these guidelines follow the city of Raleigh. Thank you.
Okay, we'll take a look at that. Thank you, especially Raleigh.
Actually, if both of you could just send us your edits for both of those.
That'd be a good idea.
That'll be helpful.
Appreciate it. Can you do that?
To me, and I can,
Add the Raleigh, well, whatever, yeah, okay.
yeah.
And last but certainly not least, Maryland Chapel. You brought some people with you, is that correct? Okay, a couple friends. And again, name and address, please.
Maryland Chapel, 132 Oak Hall Drive in Holly Springs. We live in a terrific town. One of the many things that makes our town so special are the opportunities provided to support and nurture our youth. We are happy to share that for the 5th time, the Holly Springs School of Dance will be performing with 60 of Holly Springs High School age dancers in the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade this November. The week is a dream come true for many of our dancers. Many of these kids will be experiencing lots of firsts. First time on a plane, first time to New York City, first time seeing a Broadway show, first time seeing the Rockettes Christmas Spectacular, first time ice skating at Rockefeller Center, and first time performing on the Star at Herald Square for millions of people. Having done this already with many, many girls, I can tell you it will be one of their favorite memories from childhood. Having the opportunity to travel and to share something you're so passionate about with so many people can be life-changing. I have alumni who are all over the country now and who are great leaders and doing incredible things with their careers, communities, and families. I often hear from them on Thanksgiving Day through pictures and memory sharing about our wonderful adventure. This is a really special opportunity. We come before you not only to share in our excitement, but certainly as leaders in our community to be an advocate for us in terms of support. The dancers have already been very busy with fundraisers. We've had our business community step up by being gold level t-shirt sponsors.
Yay.
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 With Bass Lake Draft House hosting a 10% of their sales evening. Yes. And with an amazing father-daughter dance that we hosted last weekend at the studio. We have an 80s prom coming up on May 2nd for adults. We've got a babysitting night, a pig picking event on April 11th, a yard sale on April 18th, and flower sales this spring, to name just a few. We appreciate the chance to share something terrific that's happening in the lives of our dancers and their families, as well as our community. If you or anyone has ideas about ways to support this adventure or to help us get the word out, we greatly appreciate it. As an artist, educator, and business owner in Holly Springs for the last 17 years, I take great pride in how I can better serve this town. I can do that knowing that we live in a community that loves its children. Thank you all so much for what you do. We will make you proud in New York City.
I'm sure you will.
Thank you.
Thank you, Marilyn.
Thanks for your
Real
time.
Quick question, can you let them know how much, around roughly how much it costs for each student?
It's about $2,000 per dancer, so it's quite a bit of money. And we will take our fundraising efforts very seriously to help it, make it as accessible for as many kids as we can.
For those of us who wish to donate, how do we do that? If we just want to write a check?
Absolutely. Yep. 132 Oak Hall Drive, Holly Springs Villa Dance.
Can you send me that information?
Yes, I will.
And also, I worked in New York City for 20 years. So if you want some free consulting on what to do and what not to do, talk to me.
Why don't you just come with us?
Oh, no.
There you go. Thank you all so
Thank
much.
you,
We
Marilyn.
appreciate it.
Appreciate it. Good luck. Thank you, ladies. We'll close the public hearing now or go to the public comment. That's what we'll close. And we'll do agenda item 6A, public hearing, annexation A1409, Worth H. Norris heirs. Laura, it's not Laura Holloman. Sean,
My agenda.
you fooled me again. Go ahead, Sean.
All right, good evening, everybody. The first item is the annexation. This is the property location here. It's located just off of Rex Road, which is down Cass Holt Road, and then, of course, Avon Ferry Road is up to the north here. This is the proposed Union Ridge subdivision right to the north. So this is a contiguous annexation of approximately 25.34 acres.
Questions? Nobody?
Nope.
Comments? Straightforward. All right, go for it.
Open the,
Motion to,
there's a
Motion
slide
to-
missing here. I'll have to open the public hearing
Motion.
first.
Oh, that's right. Excuse me. We got to do that
Sorry.
first. I'm sorry. It's been a long day. At this point in time, we'll open public hearing and close public hearing because no one signed up. That's where I was going. So now we go to the motion.
Motion to adopt annexation ordinance A 1409 annexing 25.35 for plus or minus acres owned by Ruby Baldwin and Carolyn S. Norris, and more particularly described as Wake County Pins 0637.02-69-5017 into the corporate limits of the town of Holly Springs.
Second.
Motion been made and second. All in favor?
aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Agenda item 6B, a public hearing annexation A14-10 Powell property. Again, Sean.
All right, this annexation consists of 3 separate properties. Again, this is contiguous with town limits. So here's Avon Ferry Road along the top, and then this property is the one that was just annexed into town limits. Again, this is accessed off of Rex Road, and this one is for 152 acres.
Questions or comments?
Is this the one that we need a road going through it for Avon Ferry?
Yes.
Yes, it is.
Back of,
And where,
Union.
yeah, where would,
Yep,
where
back
would
of
that be?
Union.
Yeah.
I will invite Elizabeth up real quick to discuss that.
This is the back of Union Ridge, right?
Right.
I'll bet Elizabeth's ready for this one.
So our comprehensive transportation plan does have a road that generally runs and connects through here.
Right there.
Right along that line, or?
There also are stubs within Union Ridge coming to this property that would be interconnections for whatever project would come.
Is that enough? I mean, that's a pretty big piece of property if someone develops it.
There's other standards we have of cul-de-sac length and interconnections and things like that. So some of that would kind of get worked out
Okay.
as we get further in the process.
Other comments or questions? If not, we'll open public hearing. Once again, no one signed up. We will now close the public hearing. Motion?
Motion to adopt annexation ordinance A14-10, annexing 152.785 plus or minus acres owned by Christine M. Powell, and more particularly described as Wake County Pins 0637.02-58-7901, 0638.03-30-9428, and 0637.01-299661 into the corporate limits of Holly Springs.
Second.
Motion been made, second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. A lot of numbers there. Agenda item 6C, public hearing, 14 REZ 18 Rex Road properties. Again, Sean.
All right, so now that these properties are newly annexed into town limits, they have the zoning designation of R30. And so this is for a request to rezone the 4 parcels, which total approximately 174 acres, to both R10 conditional use and R15 conditional use. So again, here's the sites. This is a split zoning request, so the larger property to the north, and then this this property right here to the south. This is what is being requested to the R15 conditional use zoning district. The conditions that are being offered by the applicant is one, that gross density shall not exceed 2 dwelling units per acre, and then 2, single-family development standards, particularly vinyl siding is not permitted except for decorative accents. All residential units shall have a crawl-spaced or raised foundation. Garage doors must have windows or decorative details or carriage-style ornaments if they are facing a street. The other 2 parcels, which directly abut Rex Road, those are the 2 parcels that are being requested for the R10 conditional use, and that only has 1 condition attached, which is the same architectural conditions that were with the R15 zoning. This is our future land use map, and I've kind of highlighted each separate zoning request. The R15 corresponds to the properties that are highlighted in red here, and then the R10 conditional use corresponds with the 2 parcels that are highlighted in the navy blue. The 2 that are being requested for R15 conditional use are designated as low-density residential, which is intended to provide for residential development up to 2 units per acre. And the other 2 that are being requested for the R10 zoning are just designated as residential, which allows for between 2 and 15 units per acre of residential development. But of course, the higher densities would be closer to our growth rings, which, as you can see, is well off. So we would anticipate that density would decrease as we move away from that. Current zoning is R30. Union Ridge, just to the north, is zoned R10. And again, the navy blue highlights what is being proposed for R10, and then the red highlights what's being proposed for the R15. The proposed R15 conditional use, of course, by the conditions, would limit that to 2 unit per acre development, which matches our comprehensive plan designation. And then the R10 would allow for 3.25 units per acre. Planning Board recommended to approve. They did discuss some of the access to these properties, mainly that as of right now, there is no access to Avon Ferry Road. It would be through Rex Road. However, there are stub roads from Union Ridge that would eventually connect these properties to Avon Ferry Road. And then we also discussed what really the intent of low density was and how the rezoning request was split and kind of corresponds with what our land use plan is asking for. If you have any questions for me, I'd be happy to answer them. Otherwise, the applicant is here if you have questions for them as well.
Questions for Sean or the applicant?
Straightforward.
Pretty straightforward. Anybody?
No, I'm good.
Planning Board 800.
Planning Board was 8-0, yeah. Then I think we're good. At this point in time, then, we'll open a public hearing. Again, I see no one signed up. Unless the applicant wants to say something. Is the applicant here?
Okay.
All right, we're good?
Okay.
All right. Want to make sure we were acknowledged, that's all. All right, at this point in time, we'll open and close public hearing. Motion, there'll be 2.
Motion to accept the following statements as being true. The requested zone map change from R30 to R15 CU and R10 CU is consistent with the Vision Holly Springs Comprehensive Growth Plan. The future land use plan map indicates properties with PIN 0638309428 and 0637299661 as low-density residential, which allows single-family residential development with a maximum density of 2 units per acre, and the conditions offered for these properties allows for single-family residential development and limits density to 2 units per acre. The future land use plan map indicates properties with the PIN 0637587901 and 0637695017 as residential, which allows single-family residential development with a density of 2 to 15 units per acre, and the R10 CU residential condition use district allows for single-family residential development with a maximum density of 3.25 dwellings units per acre.
Second.
Motion been made and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Number 2.
I'll make the motion to approve motion number 2 as stated on the screen.
Second.
Motion been made and seconded. Very smart. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Thank you, Sean. Agenda item 6D. Now, this is sworn testimony. Whoever is going to speak on this behalf, if you haven't got sworn testimony yet, please come forward and see I guess Linda's in the back? Yeah, you're in the back. If not, we'll just go ahead. Agenda item 6D, public hearing, 14 SEU 15/14 DP.18, Holly Springs Counseling Center. Sean, Ryan, and Elizabeth?
Yes.
Okay. You're on.
All right, so the next item on the agenda is a special exception use and an associated development plan for a new project that's at 300 West Arp Street, which is just down the street from us, just west of the corner of Avon Ferry Road and Arp Street. If you remember, it was a month or two ago, council adopted some UDO amendments that moved all new projects in the town village zoning district to a special exception use so that it could come before you to review. And so this is the first project that we have under that new requirement, and this is for the Holly Springs Counseling Center. And so the SEU is triggered by the fact that there are going to be site improvements associated with converting it from a single-family home over to a commercial business. The actual office use of the structure is a permitted use in the town village zoning district. So again, this request is specifically to allow for a new project to occur in the town village zoning district at 300 West Arp Street. This is the proposed site plan for the project. This is the existing residential structure, and so there's going to be an addition of 5 parking spaces. Just to orient you, this is the Wake County housing just to the side here, and Avon Ferry Road is down here. So 5 additional parking spaces, and then of course there'll be perimeter landscaping, but no changes to the structure at this time. And I'm going to invite Elizabeth up real quick to discuss some of the changes that have occurred to this site plan since planning board.
Okay.
Hello.
Go again.
There were several things that had come up, I believe, at the town council retreat a few weeks ago. Or maybe that was just last week, wasn't it? I feel like we've had a few
Yes,
extra weeks
it
with the
was.
snow lately.
Skipped a meeting, as you know.
And so with the discussions that I believe you guys had, there were some considerations that wanted to be made for projects that are residential projects that are converting to businesses. And so in response to that, we went ahead and have worked with this plan that is coming before you here, and there's changes that have been made as recommendations in the conditions that are not represented on the plan. So I wanted to kind of just touch on what we have agreed to allow them to not construct. And so the road widening here for Arp Street is our pretty standard road widening, center line to the project side, half of the cross-section. That generally includes curb and gutter and sidewalk. So one of the areas that we have allowed a modification is not to construct this sidewalk unless the applicant would like to do it on their own, for their own business purposes. The other item is the parking lot. Generally, any required parking requires curb and gutter to be put on the parking lot perimeter. And so we are allowing the portion of parking on site not to have curb and gutter. The other item, I believe there was a pole, a power pole on one side, and right this moment, I'm not seeing it show up on here very clearly, but I believe it's on the on one edge of the property, and we're going to work through with construction drawings to maybe modify the limits of how far that road widening goes so that that power pole does not have to be moved until the rest of the road widening is done. So those were kind of done in consideration of existing homes converting to businesses. The amount of infrastructure that's being required it is a lot for a new business coming to the downtown area. We want to encourage development in the downtown area. So I will leave that there, and if you've got questions, I can explain further.
I'm trying to picture where this is. Oh, I'm sorry, did I interrupt? No, I'm trying to
No,
picture.
go ahead.
Let's see if we can go back and
Yeah.
we're going the wrong way.
Is this,
So this is Avon Ferry that goes towards Town Hall. This is Main Street. Arp Street comes this way.
right?
So it's down Arp Street. Our Mosaic on Main project is this
Well,
area.
That
helped.
Yeah, right, exactly. I was trying to orient it.
Other questions?
Yeah, Elizabeth, in terms of, we're going to allow them not to have to build a sidewalk.
That's correct.
And they can at their discretion. is there a fee in lieu of that, or is it just, I'm trying to figure out who's going to ultimately be responsible for paying for the sidewalk is what my question is.
Currently, the plan is to allow it to not be constructed, and so the town would have to take that project on in the future.
And it's on the south side, too.
Yes, there will be sidewalk on both sides of the road.
Now, on the other side is Mims Park, right?
Yes, this is Mims Park. So our project would do the road widening along this side and put the sidewalk
And put the
in
sidewalk in.
at the time that comes.
Okay, that gets me. Thank you.
Other questions?
I think the parking is minimal,
Parking for the park
this site.
or for this site?
What, so you're adding parking, parallel parking, right?
So their project is putting in, it's 5 spaces total, 4 with a handicap.
Is that enough?
And they are able, why don't I let you explain that? I've heard it explained several times, but it's better for him to.
Go ahead, Sean.
So for the size of the building, just over 2,000 square feet, we would require typically anywhere else in town 7 parking spaces minimum. Being in the town village district, if you are located within 300 feet of public parking, you automatically have to reduce your parking by 50%. They are not within 300 feet, but our UDO still allows them to have the option to reduce by 50%. So with 7 parking spaces required, they could, under our current standards, go down to 4 spaces. And that's based on what the applicant believes that their parking needs are. And so through the review process, it was expressed to staff that 5 parking spaces would be sufficient for this
How many
use.
councils are going to have in there?
That would be a good question to ask the applicant when they come up. And that's one of the items that was discussed at Planning Board. I can move to that real quick before we ask the applicant to come up. There was a discussion about parking with the Planning Board. And at that time, the applicant had expressed that there may be several therapists there at one time. And so Planning Board was a little bit concerned about the parking. And with the street widening, that does allow some opportunity to have parking on the street rather than completely on the property.
It's a good distance from the parking lot,
Mm-hmm.
the public parking lot. It's way down.
Right, the public parking
Oh, yeah,
is a
public
significant
More
distance.
than 300 feet, but they'd have be able to park on the street.
That's
Yes,
what-
so
that's what I was asking.
the road widening that they would have to do would allow for some temporary on-street parking. However, once the town widens the south side of Arp Street, that will become the permanent on-street parking, and then this would no longer be allowed for on-street parking.
And I think you have to take the nature of the business into consideration on numbers of parking lots or parking spaces too.
Yeah, but if
so
it says
we'll-
they're going to have several therapists, there's your
Yeah,
parking.
that's-
zone
yeah,
right
that's
there.
where my
We'll
concern
ask
is.
that question.
But the
yeah.
park across the street will have parking, right?
It has on-street parking.
Okay. Anything else?
No, that's it.
No, good?
That was the only concern I had.
Okay. At this point in time, I'll open a public hearing. This is sworn testimony, and I'm informed that all 3 have been sworn in. So Randy Miller, you're up first, sir. Again, name, address, you know the drill.
My name is Randy Miller with Thompson Associates, 1149 Executive Circle, Cary. Speaking on behalf of the owners. First off, I appreciate, and we appreciate staff and y'all taking into consideration on trying to alleviate costs for businesses that want to relocate in the downtown area, especially businesses that are small businesses that want to get established. And that has helped the project. One of the things we'd like to bring up before consideration to the board, to the council, is to possibly delay the road improvements also to such time that neighboring parcels widen the road. And that way it could be all done at once, especially if Mims Park gets developed. Then you could do the whole section at once. The section of roadway to widen along here has a lot of cost associated with it, not only removing utilities, as Elizabeth talked about, the power poles. There's storm drainage coming down through there from the Wake County housing site, and that drive is right up against this property. So there'll be extensive work have to be done to collect all that storm drainage and pipe it through, down through the road, and then you're widening it. And then you're only getting, about 190 some feet of road section widened. It's going to be piecemeal. Yeah, the owners can speak on this also, but we would just like to have be considered the possibility of just delaying that until such time other parcels around there, specifically Mims Park across the way, comes under development, and that way there could be some cost savings, possibly not only for them, but also for the town, if a contractor is going through and doing it all at once, and it'll also make a better project for everybody. The owners can also speak on the parking issue. I'm just going to bring that up. I know you had a question about that. At any one time, there's 2 therapists in the office, each with a client. So that's 4. 4 spaces is all they need at any one time. The way everybody is scheduled and all that, and I do believe they have a schedule that they operate now currently on, is that there'll only be two therapists on site, each with a client, so 4 spaces.
Okay.
So they'll have adequate parking on site.
Thank you, Randy. Next would be, is it Nancy Smythe? Did I say it right? Thank you. Sure. Again, name and address, please.
Nancy Smythe, 105 Starwood Lane, Holly Springs. So because of the parking issue, I laid this out. I did it kind of quickly, so if it doesn't make sense, I'll explain it. We have 6, 7 therapists, but they're not all there at the same time. They work very staggered hours, which is pretty typical. All of these therapists, except for my husband and myself, work in different locations as well. So you can see on Mondays, we have 2 therapists, so I kind of put at the bottom how many therapists and how many spaces, and I just doubled it because it's one family, one person per therapist. So if you kind of go across, you can see there are times when my husband and I are both there, but that's still one car, so I kind of fit one parking space.
Okay.
So I hope that clarifies the parking issue for you.
Anything else you want to add?
I don't think so.
Done? Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
I do just want to say that
Sure.
we're already running on a really tight budget. We've already added an extra space because we don't want our clients to be inconvenienced either. And so, whatever can be taken or held off is helpful for us to be able to get up and running.
Thank you. Thank you. Larry Bernstein is next.
Hi, Larry Bernstein, 105 Starwood Lane. I just want to say I probably have confused the parking issue because I talked about 4 therapists and kind of the sense of that we need on-street parking. This has been a real learning process for all of us. We, first and foremost, social workers and therapists and business people. And it's been a learning process. The last time, 5 years ago, when we had to start getting involved with regulations. So every time I've sat down, I've been fussing about the regulation that we really would need 7 parking spaces and, we're only coming up with 5 because we were trying to keep the structure and character of the building, kind of keep it as a nice feature in the downtown district. But the person who does the day-to-day operating is my wife, and she's the one who, as in most marriages, I've got 1 vote, she's got 2. And she really runs a lot of the show. And she knows what goes on there on a daily basis. So I think I've complicated it a little bit in our negotiation and talk, but in the end, it's really very simple, and she's laid it out. Wish I had talked to her in the beginning. Wish she had talked to you in the beginning. So thank you for your consideration.
Thank you, Larry.
Any
Appreciate
questions?
it.
Ask a question before
Sure.
Mr.
Go
Bernstein
ahead.
steps down. My understanding was there was a meeting with the DDI committee, and there was some discussion about a Sunday group session. And there were, I think the number 25 comes to mind, up to 25.
25 people. All our current work sessions, any support groups we've got, are being conducted at a different facility.
So they will not
We
be.
would
at
not
that
be conducted there, no. Especially with this situation with the street.
facility. Was that mentioned at the DDI meeting?
I'm not sure. It doesn't ring a bell to me.
I don't know.
Well, the staff, our staff can perhaps add some.
I'm not aware of any group that we have with 25 people.
You want to come up to the podium, hon, if you're going to.
Yeah. I mean, we have a Sunday group meeting right now that has 9 people. Most groups don't get past that kind of number. 25?
But you said you thought this was at a different location? If you
25
had,
people in a group is not a good group. It's
Yeah.
too large for what we do.
right,
And we hold our group sessions, which we do on Sundays from 5 for 2 hours with 7, 8, 9 people. And those are in increments of time, 12 weeks, and then we're off for a couple of months until we have enough people. That's as large as we can be, and that's off-site, separate from our facility, kind of a more
separate from this
neutral.
facility?
Yeah,
Okay.
kind of a more neutral setting.
So where did you get this information?
There were some, I think it was discussed at the staff meeting, and perhaps a member of the staff can
Yeah, who
clarify
was-
that.
who
There
was
was, I'm a member on the DDI, and there was conversations about things that could potentially go there, or, and there was multiple folks, like if it was a married couple having trouble, they might come in 2 cars. If it's somebody with a kid, I mean, counseling centers, it's really hard for us to pick apart how many cars may or may not be in their small parking lot. They're going to flourish and they're going to, serve their business. I think the point that the DDI committee actually really looked at was not getting into necessarily the specifics of all the parking, but wanting to consider that, an existing business in town that's providing a good service and what we could do for them. They're converting a residential house to a business. And the things that have been outlined to you from staff was really that effort to reduce the cost. So, and when you look at it from a standpoint, there's fees being waived from the DDI, there's, sidewalk, there's curb and gutter, the power pole, those are all things that we looked at that we could really cut their cost and work with them. And I think to go away from the on-street parking is the road widening, that is something that we will have to do in the future. And delaying it, we don't know when we'll get it. It'll be more expensive later. So that was something, we didn't want to let go of that widening. We really wanted to keep the widening, which also provides parking, but we wanted to help in other ways that we could and wouldn't hurt our budget. And so those are the things that we feel like we've really made a valiant effort to cut that cost and make it a manageable project.
Well, let me ask, how big is that piece of property? Is there a place where you can add parking on the other side of the house, or was that ever
Sean,
discussed?
there's a site plan
Ron?
on there if y'all want to.
Yeah, I saw the shot,
There is a second driveway right where the mouse is there that would go back to an existing shed. So there could potentially be some room on the west side of the property to add additional parking spaces.
It is a driveway now, Sean? A driveway?
Yes, that is an existing driveway.
So you could have 2 or 3 cars in that driveway, perhaps?
I believe it only goes to the property line. Are you aware? Is there
Go ahead, Randy.
Sort of an existing driveway cut that's there now that the people that are using the residents have used to get along the side and also to access the shed. And we were proposing just to keep it there as a service entrance, so to speak, or whatever, for, landscaping people can come in and use that drive and get back and have anything in the shed that they need to take care of the property.
Is that paved at all, or is it gravel, or is it just dirt?
It's just dirt right now. We're proposing,
Dirt?
if we had to do the road improvements or whatever, it would be paved and have the actual town's driveway cut put in up to the property line for it. I just want to clarify too, as Kendra was saying, we do appreciate everything everybody was doing as far as, we aren't asking to have the road improvements be put as a burden onto the town. They are willing to do them, just delay them to down the road to such time when adjacent parcels. I mean, if y'all next week are starting Mims Park, then we'd be doing it next week. Just to do it all at once instead of just having a 195-foot section of road put in there.
But to make sure we all understand, then the Sunday group program that you have will not be here, correct? Offsite. Okay. All right, just want to make sure I understood. Okay. Anything else for the applicants or for Randy? Hello? I didn't do it. Did I do it?
Sir?
Nothing. Anything else?
No, sir.
All right, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
At this point in time, we'll close the public hearing. Discussion? Questions further from
All
Sean?
in line with what we discussed at the retreat to try and get development downtown, minimize the cost to the people that are willing to invest in the town, and have this be an example that would create traffic to downtown with customers and just complete what we're looking for as far as infill of downtown, existing buildings converted to commercial that'll complement our village district.
Anything else? Comments on the request about delaying the road improvements? Do we want to touch on that?
I guess that
Please do.
runs with the property forever,
How was the condition stated, Elizabeth?
or is it just applicable to this petitioner?
Good question.
I'd like just to add in a little bit quick on that too, is the reason why there's not a formal waiver request of engineering standards for that in your, as part of the application or in the packet, is several years ago, as a result of other projects in the downtown area, the Unified Development Ordinance was amended to eliminate the ability to not complete infrastructure in downtown. And so technically today, they have to do the road improvements, they have to do the sidewalk. And so what we're saying is we're willing to waive the sidewalk, and in the next month or two, you're going to see a UDO amendment to eliminate sidewalk from residential to commercial conversions in the downtown area, because that was what we had eliminated from other conversions on Raleigh Street. So we can bring it back to being consistent with what we have done previously,
But not the road improvement.
but not the road improvements.
But we can have that delayed till such time that the town improves the other side of the road as a part of this?
You could consider a delay if you feel that there's adequate parking.
Okay.
The question was if it ran with the property or ran with the project. I think this would run with the project is typically how a condition that's at this time would be. I don't know if there's any other opinion of that.
Okay.
With the project.
With the project, John?
So what does that mean?
Yeah, what does that mean?
Well, I mean, the town has limited ability to go to the property owner and say, pay up once a certificate of occupancy is given. You know, there are avenues that we could do, is require a bond of the applicant, but applicant would probably find it'd be easier to do the actual road improvements than to maintain a bond for a long period of time, because it's basically an insurance policy that you keep having to put a bunch of money towards if you're not a developer with ties to bonding companies. So, yeah, basically your carrot is sort of left once, in order to get a developer or landowner to do anything, is sort of left once you give a CO.
I still don't understand. If we give them permission to delay the road improvements until the town completes the other side, does that mean that they don't have to do it in the future?
Well, the mechanism by which we enforce them to do that in the future is very suspect. I mean, I'd have to file a lawsuit, in order to compel them to do what they were supposed to do, if they refuse to do it.
Yeah.
It's just a heck of a lot easier to do it before you grant a CO. I mean, it can be done. We haven't had to do it. We've delayed road widenings in the
In a lot of
past, and
places.
it just, that's, but we don't have a whole lot. In those instances, it's,
Hasn't there always been a fee in lieu of doing the road widening?
that has been the practice of this board in the past, yes.
So they would give the fee and then go with that.
Write a check and it would go into the town coffers. And, we don't really account and escrow it. So in 10 years, when we, if we were to widen Earp Street, we'd all be cursing the people that did made this decision 10 years prior. And say, where is that money? And,
Even we don't escrow it. This goes
It would
into-
go into a street reserve account. But it
Could
could
be
be,
used on
it
other
could be
things.
used on another
Yeah,
project.
But then doesn't that turn on our responsibility to make sure that we follow up and do what we're supposed to do on that, right? Did you understand what I was saying? I mean, then the responsibility would be for us to do the road improvement.
Oh,
No matter
sure,
what the
yes.
cost is.
Yeah, at some point, yes.
right. And the cost of doing the road improvements in 10 years would certainly be more than
More than what
what's
it
in the
is.
escrow plus in
And in the escrow, it's not gaining any kind of interest or anything.
0.5%.
Very little, yes.
Other comments?
My only concern is that, the length of time it may take for us to develop the Mims property.
Mims
Oh, yeah.
property, yeah.
Could be 1 year, 2 years, 3 years,
4
4
or
years.
5.
Never,
Correct.
Yeah,
depending on funding and things of that nature.
I agree.
And if the longer it is, the more it's a concern that it should have been done, and the cost of what it would cost to do it is going to continue to go up. So I can't, in good conscience, see that we're waiving sidewalks, we're waiving curb, we're being generous on curb and gutter in terms of some exceptions there. So I just can't see the streets there.
What are we not waiving? I mean, what are we talking about, the cost that would be for this? For the stuff that we're waiving, and then we're talking about,
So site infrastructure wise, they would be doing the additional pavement that's needed, the curb and gutter, and obviously however the drives need to be turned out. They would do that. They would be paving their parking lot, and that's really needed for ADA purposes. I know there was some discussion about could we allow them not to pave it and do a gravel or some other material. The benefit of that, you don't get enough benefit. You've got to have the paved for handicap purposes, and you might as well go ahead and take care of the whole
Right,
parking
right.
lot at that point. So that really is it. The utilities for this project are already there, so it really is road improvements is what the construction cost would be associated. I think they've got a little bit of landscaping, but the main cost is the widening, the curb and gutter, and the parking lot.
And I think there were one or two utility poles.
There's
Two that we were going to
Take a look at.
allow to remain, which I think were going to cost about $5,000 each to remove. And I do want to say this about the sidewalks. Sidewalks are very important. We've certainly, from the town council's perspective and staff perspective, the reason we waive the sidewalks or recommend waiving in this particular instance is there is not a sidewalk on either side.
Right.
And there will eventually, as it's been pointed out, be a sidewalk across the street. Otherwise, we may be, if there was a sidewalk and this would have connected two other sidewalk extensions, then we would not be recommending waiving that as a requirement.
But there's nothing on either side along
That
that
is
road.
correct.
It's just a ditch.
Correct.
Something else,
did you
Randy?
have some?
By the way, during sworn testimony, there's no limit, well, there's a reasonable limit, but there's no limit like a 3 minutes, so Randy, you're back on.
Just real briefly, you had a question about cost. We had estimated to do all the road improvements with the sidewalks and all the utility relocations and everything, around $59,581.
That's all three things.
That's doing all the road improvements, the sidewalk and everything. With the proposal in allowing not to put the sidewalks in, which will also not necessitate the relocating some power poles and utility services and stuff out there, and the curb and gutter along the inside, that will result in a savings of approximately $18,700 to the owner. But they'll still be on the hook for doing the road costs and stuff, which would be around $43,000
Really?
for it. And with a small business, you know, $43,000.
It's a mortgage.
Hey, yes. So that is some estimates that we had come up with. Just wanted to share with you.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Randy.
And then one other question, what would be the fee in lieu on this? If they did that? I just want to look at 43,000 and
The way that a fee in lieu is typically done is that we get construction estimates from the applicant, we review them, confirm that we're in agreement and approve those, and then establish the fee in lieu. But it is actual cost, so what it costs to construct it is generally what that fee in lieu includes.
so it may be more than 43,000.
If, once we review the estimate, if we believe something should be calculated and estimated a little bit higher, we could have something a little bit more. Generally, I mean, it's close to a engineer's estimate.
And it's just an engineer's estimate. They don't actually bid it, and we don't get the luxury of knowing what the actual cost would be. And historically, by the time we do get around to doing it, it usually does cost more than what we've collected. But, you know, it's based on an estimate as good as you have at that time.
What if they may cost more than the 43,000 that they're going to pay right now?
Right, yeah.
Counselor, do we need a separate motion on this? One issue?
With respect to a waiver issue, I mean,
Waiver, fee in lieu, or not?
you know, I would include what you're going to
The
do
motion.
all in one motion.
Mhm.
And therefore, if you elect to waive anything, then you do it, then the approval is conditioned on that waiver. So technically, if the waiver says at such, you know, we'll waive the road widening until such time as MIMS is developed or
Or
any
whatever.
other road work is done in that area. And if that condition of this waiver fails, then the site plan approval is rescinded. You know,
Something like
that's
that.
more of a, sort of a carrot for the applicant to know that, you know, once, you know, we really want you to do the road widening at this later date that we're speaking of.
Mhm.
And if you don't, the potential is there that your site plan, conditional site plan is null. So you'd go back to a single-family residence at that time. So
Okay.
that may be if you're of the mind to do that, right?
Comments?
I feel, could I add one?
Please.
Yes, please. It's really a bit of a concern if there's a delay, and you certainly have the right to do that. We may want to speak to on-street parking as not being allowed specifically, and the reason I bring that up is because Earp Street does lead to the cemetery. There are funeral processions that go down that
Yeah,
street
yeah.
typically, and if there's on-street parking on a Sunday, for example, that could create a bit of a hazard. You know, it could create a one-lane situation, and I think that may have been one of the other factors that was involved when there was consideration being given to going ahead with the widening because of the nature of that street and what it leads to.
Mhm.
Just to explain what you do have in your packet and what's about to come up is, we have a motion to waive the sidewalk, and that is a UDO requirement, so it's a waiver, I believe is the correct.
Right, right.
There is also a motion for an exception to the engineering standards for the curb and gutter, because that's from the standard requirements. So there are motions for those two things. I think what John was explaining was how to do maybe a delay or the further road widening piece, but that's what's currently on the screens.
You know, we have debated this one probably more than we'd have on any of them, and simply because we want people to come and open up businesses in the village district. But we also have requirements that we need to, in order for traffic to move properly. So, it's a difficult decision.
It is.
Was this discussed at the planning board meeting to any extent whatsoever? Or is this brand-new information? You were probably there, Elizabeth, right?
They discussed the parking.
The parking, I know, but not the road.
Parking part was discussed about parking on the street. But the rest of the discussion, your retreat was after the planning board meeting, so that's new.
This is new information, okay. Just checking. Other comments, questions? Well, someone can make a motion either way on the items that was recommended to add or subtract or leave, whatever.
I kind of like the idea that John came up with, so I'd like to make a motion and include those kinds of things. I can't remember all the wording. Can you help us out on that?
Well, you would make and accept the findings of fact, as stated on the screen, conditioned upon a delay of the road widening until such time as Mims Park or any other Earp Street road improvements are performed, at which time the applicant shall participate in the road improvements for their frontage
Or,
according to the site plan.
Or the site-
Failure to do so
Would revoke.
would revoke would nullify the findings of fact and therefore remove the special exception use.
So what does that mean? They'd have to vacate?
It would go back to a single-family residence if they did not
And
do
they would
what
have
they were
to
supposed to.
And they would have to
vacate.
vacate as a business.
I mean, yeah, the mechanics of it would
Correct.
be that I would have to go to court with them if they, if we couldn't work something out, if we couldn't convince them to do what they're
But
agreeing to do here
I get the
today.
idea that these people are trustworthy, that they're going to do what they're supposed to do, hopefully. I believe in that. So let's, as he said, I make that motion.
And with the,
what's suggested motion number one?
Always exhibit some
Six or-
level of
Right,
accommodation.
we got 5 motions total.
Yeah, we have 5 in total. Number one was the suggestion that she just made to put what the counselor said on motion number 1, correct? Is that correct, John?
Yeah, I'm attempting to tie it to the findings of fact, that, absent this thing that's going to happen in the future, that these findings of fact would fail. So if they, in the future, do not participate in the road widening, then the findings of fact fail. So I'm trying to tie it to suggested motion number 1, and I apologize that this is so convoluted.
Would we add it as a condition of approval of the special exception use?
You can add it there as well.
In 5?
Yeah, I think it's,
Got it to both, you think?
sorry, yeah.
So
Okay, so let's, once you get that written, let's read it.
We got it. Okay.
All right, so we're going back to number 1, is that correct? Yes?
we were going to add that at the 1 or 5?
Both.
All right.
Okay,
You
so-
okay on that, Joni?
Suspenders.
So is this the motion?
This is the motion number 1 with
Okay,
the addition of
The addendum.
the counselor.
let me just ask a question before we go forward with the motions and everything. If we're not in agreement with delaying, is it the findings of fact that we would disagree with, or would it be motion 5 that this is going to be added to also? Because on the
Well-
whole, it's, I like the project and I'm willing to go forward. I have one significant problem with delaying the street improvements. That's it.
Well, if that's the case, then we can remove it.
Trying to make sure we,
Remove it from the motion number 1 and the findings of fact and just leave it at motion number 5
But
with a
that-
condition of approval.
But we first have to come first and have the motion to have it in there, and of course, you can say, no, you don't, we don't know what everybody else.
Well, you could leave the motion number one as is,
As is.
unamended,
Okay.
And merely add it as as an
and
addition
add it
to
as a condition
five.
to
That would
to
make it
number
much
five.
cleaner and allow everything else to flow through.
Agree.
It would not tie the road widenings to the findings of fact,
Correct.
That would be
but it
acceptable.
would still be a condition of approval.
That would be acceptable.
Yes?
Along with the waiver of the sidewalks
Sidewalks,
and
curb and
the
gutter.
curb and
Which
gutter.
is already in
That's
there.
all in 5, right?
The,
They're separate motions.
Separate motions on those, okay.
they're all in there already, right? Okay.
Okay. I'll go ahead with the motion number 1.
Okay.
Motion to make and accept the findings of fact to be recorded in the minutes of special exception use petition 14 SCU 15 for Holly Springs Counseling Center as specified by the UDO section 3.03A, Town Village District, to allow for a new project in the Town Village District as submitted by Holly Springs Counseling Center.
Here a second? Motion been made and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed unanimously. Number 2.
Okay. Motion to, and it's, any changes, and this is straightforward, right? Motion to make and accept the findings of fact to be recorded in the minutes for a waiver of regulations of UDO section 7.07B13 and 7.07C to eliminate the required public sidewalk along West Earp Street for development plan number 14 DP 18 for Holly Springs Counseling Center as 300 West Earp Street as written on the screen.
Second.
Motion been made and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed unanimously. Number 3.
Motion to grant waiver of regulations of UDO section 7.07B, 13, and 7.07C to eliminate the required public sidewalk along West Earp Street for development plan number 14 DP 18 for Holly Springs Counseling Center at 300 West Earp Street, Wake County, PIN 06498267768, as submitted by Thompson and Associates, dated 1/12/15, with the following condition as stated on the screen.
Second.
Motion been made and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion,
Is this following
Passes.
what you talked about, John?
I would do it under the exception of number 4, the construction standards. And I don't have the benefit of the agenda, unfortunately. My computer is spinning a little wheelie color wheel constantly here. So you can either do it as a separate motion identical to this exception of the regulations of the design standards and just say that it's delayed, or you could,
The requirement for road widening is in the UDO, so I think it's probably it's identical to the previous one, just instead of sidewalk.
I think we're making the sausage way too complicated. Whether it's in the UDO or the development
We have a
standards.
separate motion that does it regardless of which document it's in.
So we
I was thinking about that too.
We still need to go back to motion 3. We haven't done that one yet.
Now, motion 3.
Yeah, we did.
I just did motion
You
3.
did three?
Motion 3.
Yeah.
Okay.
Motion 4.
Motion for it. I
On
was
four?
worried about this
Okay.
one, Johnny.
Motion to approve an exception to regulations, engineering, design, and construction standards, section 3.02G, in association with Development Plan 14 DP 18 for Holly Springs Counseling Center at 300 West Arp Street, Holly Pin, Wake County Pin 06498267768, to eliminate the required curb and gutter for the off-street parking lot as submitted by Thompson and Associates as stated on the screen.
Here a second? Motion been made and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed unanimously. Now, number
We've
5.
had the sidewalks and the
Gutter, curb
the
and gutter.
curb and gutter taken care of.
Yep.
Y'all want to just say so moved for
I'm
the
sorry?
road? Y'all want to just say so moved for the road widening, and then we'll word it later? Because I think your intent is to allow them to delay it until such time as the other, south side of the road is done.
Is that what we're saying, the south side, or we're saying
I think it was mentioned anything.
anything else? If another property decides to,
Yeah, anything.
Probably too complicated.
well, I think we have to be specific, because if we
Right.
say, if we say it'll, you know what I mean? That's what I'm wondering, how, so
The
that the client
proposed
knows.
motion that I did was, it, until such time as Mims Park is developed or any other road improvements are done on
For any-
West Earp Street in the
Okay.
vicinity, that they're to do their road widening. And logically, it would fit in special exception use condition number 2 on motion number 5. However, if the entire council is going to not vote, if there's going to be a split vote as to motion number 5, certain parts, then pull it out and make motion number 6
That's what I was
to
wondering.
add a special exception use condition. So leave suggested motion number 5 as is,
You make a sixth
and
motion.
then you'll make a 6th motion
so.
to add a second special exception use condition.
That's what I do.
Sounds easier.
And that way,
That is simpler.
you do not have to not vote as to certain parts
Certain
of
parts,
motion
okay.
number 5.
I like it.
Okay.
Okay?
And that way you get a clean vote.
Okay, number 5.
I'll make the motion to approve suggested motion number 5.
Second.
Motion made, second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Now number 6.
Motion number 6 would be a motion to add a special exception use condition requiring the applicant, allowing the applicant to delay the road improvements on the site plan until such time as any road improvements in the West Earp Street area adjacent to the property or the development of the Mims Park were to occur.
So moved.
I'll make that motion, okay.
So Jason is the senior home, the property right next door, or whatever's across the
Down the
street.
street, yeah.
But if something down at the end by the cemetery develops and has to put in, road improvements there, it would not apply because it's down the
Well, I
street,
mean,
because it's not
what was-
adjacent or
What I had proposed was adjacent to, and, but I
Make
don't,
a
I
whole
don't get the
thing.
ability to make the motions, so. you wanna-
you gave that up.
I just want to make sure it's clear for the.
Yeah, for
the
the
You say-
applicant.
You
knows
say the
that.
words, we make the motions, right?
Mr.
Yes,
Ma-
I got you.
The manager had something to say there.
I was just reminded, use of technology, someone texted me this and reminded me that we are going to, that's on our resurfacing list, Earp Street.
Uh-huh.
And
But it's not the widening.
not the widening, but I think that the reason it's pointed out to me, the thought was if we added that to the resurfacing as a separate piece of it, the fact that they're already out there, you might be able to get it done at less expense now as opposed to if you did it later, because they're going, we're going to resurface the entire street. That was just pointed out to me earlier, and it hadn't been discussed. I didn't mean to muddy the waters further, but did want to share that information.
That would be an option of the applicant, to the applicant.
Right.
And we will be doing that in a month or so?
Yes.
Yeah, very shortly. The resurfacing.
That would be an option that they may be able to tie into what our project is as an added cost to ours,
Randy
cover
Shaver
their
said no.
extension.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Okay. That's-
that's
It still
information
fits
for
in
them, I
with
guess.
the motion that was suggested as far as delaying it until such time.
No,
Well, the only,
we're making you work for your money.
that's right, the only caveat is if the motion says road improvements adjacent to Earp Street, adjacent to 300 Earp Street, then, that, I guess you gotta look at what the definition of
Is
road improvements.
resurfacing it a road improvement
Is,
that needs.
right, does that trigger the requirement? Is it up to the applicant? And if that's your intent, to leave it up to the applicant, you might want to state that in your motion. But if it's your intent to trigger that requirement,
I think we're looking at the triggering requirement is the fact of the widening of the street.
That's what I thought too.
Not the
I agree.
resurfacing of it.
I agree.
But how do you,
so if that's your motion, then I think Joni's could probably work that in.
That's what I do. I agree. Who's making the motion? Did you start?
Oh, let's see. Motion to,
What he
John
said.
as John said,
what John said.
Yeah.
This is very complicated. Don't-
As it relates to road widening, correct?
has it been-
Motion, I think your motion is to add a special exception use to
Right.
allow the applicant to delay the road improvements shown on their site plan
Right.
until such time as road improvements in the vicinity of their property on West Earp are done such that there is a widening of West Earp Street.
Yeah. I think that's as good as it gets.
John,
Just me.
we have condition number 3 that the property, if it's sold or used, the sidewalk would be installed. Should we also add the road widening to that condition?
There is a friendly amendment, there's a request for a friendly amendment to your motion to add that this motion be, motion number 6 also amends development plan condition number 3 to include road widening
It's sold
if it's sold.
or used by another business.
And if you accept that friendly amendment,
Yeah.
Accept that one?
Thank you, Sean.
John.
Okay, so moved. We have a second. Can you believe this? I mean,
Well, it's exciting in a way because we
Yeah.
are starting to grow this, and this is something we need to really
we
spend
really
time looking at.
want y'all to move into the villages. Okay, so
So the
moved.
suggestion is, this becomes number 3 plus,
No, this is 6.
separate still,
motion number 6, and motion number 6 adds special exception use condition number 2, and it amends development plan condition number
got
3.
it. Okay, I got it.
Okay, so moved.
You
Tony got
good,
that, right?
Sean?
Second.
Motion been made, moved, seconded, all in,
And
Yes.
vicinity, again,
Yeah,
that,
adjacent or vicinity?
that vicinity was in that?
Right.
So vicinity would be the mosaic.
yeah. Right?
Or can I ask that the motion be amended so that vicinity includes the parcel that mosaic is proposed for?
Would that, well, vicinity, you could say the whole darn town. Would,
But
So
he
is
said,
that a
he said
vague
Arp
term?
Street, yeah, so.
Arp Street.
In the
On Arp
vicinity
Street.
of the property on Arp Street, yeah.
We need to be
I just don't want
specific.
something coming up later on, we'll say, well, that's not really the vicinity. The vicinity is, I
Right.
want it to be clarified that that
It's
parcel
division from-
there where mosaic is proposed for, that.
I'd say
when we
within
say
300
vicinity-
feet or 500 feet, plus or minus the property.
Yeah, how close is that?
Or are we saying like between Maine and
Well,
Blaylock?
that's 190 feet on that, they said on the frontage there. That's what I think he quoted. So within 200 feet of the,
Let's say 100 yards.
300 feet.
If the motion maker and the motion seconder agree to
Right.
define vicinity as within 100 yards of the property.
okay. That would include
mosaic.
mosaic.
Yes.
Why, let me ask you, why would you want that if that really doesn't affect that property that much?
It's on Arp Street. It's going to start the improvement of that area, that road.
Okay.
And why not?
And I think anytime that they can tie in with someone else that's going on, it will help them with the cost.
That was kind of the purpose too.
Okay.
Definitely help with the
Okay, I
cost.
just wanted to know the reason for it.
All right, so
That's fine with me.
there's been a number 6 motion made. There's been a number 6 motion discussed. There's been a couple additions to the mixed motion number 6.
And we've
And it's
added
been
within
seconded?
100 yards of.
And 100 yards has been added.
Yards, yeah.
So with that, motion been made and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed?
Me.
One opposed. Okay, thank you.
I would take to heart the fact that the town is going to be resurfacing Arp Street because of the sewer project that was there, and that the occupants of that property may be able to tie into whatever the contract is for the paving there, so.
It may save them some money.
Okay. We ready?
We have.
Okay.
Agenda 6E, public hearing, 15 UDO 01, semi-annual UDO amendments.
Now, this is going to be a little less
Cheer clap.
complicated, right?
I hope
Not so
so.
much.
Make a
We don't
motion.
really usually have UDO amendments that are this
don't think we'll-
simple. This
saw.
time, we're doing a UDO, which is our Unified Development Ordinance, the town zoning and subdivision regulations. And we had a large number of semi-annual amendments that we did back in September. And as we were working on actually incorporating those amendments into the actual physical Word document, we realized that there were a couple things that were missing. And then there was also a general statute modification that we did not correct in our ordinances. So we wanted to get another ordinance amendment in quickly to take care of these with the supplement that we're publishing. So essentially what happened was in the table of contents, a new section was added. So we needed to add that to the table of contents, so that's very minor. In our local business and our research technology districts, we were adding and clarifying setback regulations for integrated centers, industrial parks, and business parks, which included adding language and removing language. We forgot to remove language from both local business and RT, and so we needed to clarify that. Our town council and our planning board, there's been several waivers that we have added to the Unified Development Ordinance over the years. We just never clarified that the planning board and the town council have the ability to act on those waivers. So we needed to clarify that. And then for the town council and the Board of Adjustment, the town council, when you're working as a special exception use and deliberating that, and then also as special exception uses come to you, sometimes there's a variance associated, you're acting as a Board of Adjustment. So the voting requirements have been modified by the statutes actually a year or so ago, and we just never corrected them actually in the ordinance. So we wanted to make sure that the ordinance has the proper voting for special exceptions and then also the proper voting for variances. And then there was also some official clarification at the state level of what findings of fact for the Board of Adjustment should be when granting a variance. Previously, it's all been done by case law, but now there's actual language in the statutes specifying these are the findings of fact for a variance. So that's, in summary, what our UDO amendments are. We presented them to the planning board. They did not have any questions with the
It was an 8-0 vote, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
And so with all UDO amendments, there's a state plan consistency statement as well as the motion.
Any questions, Gina, before we open? No. At this point in time, I'll open a public hearing. There is no one signed up. I'm looking. We'll close the public hearing. Any further discussion? Seeing none? Two motions.
We're going to do it. Motion to accept the following statements as true. The requested UDO text amendment is consistent with the Vision Holly Springs Comprehensive Plan Executive Summary in regard to using the plan to implement the town's vision and adopting and implementing the plan. Proposed UDO amendments provide the tools necessary for staff and the development community to implement the goals and objectives stated in the plan.
Here, second. Motion been made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Number two.
I'll make the motion to adopt ordinance 15-01 to approve and enact Unified Development Ordinance Amendment 15-UDO-01 as requested by the town of Holly Springs.
Second.
Motion been made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Gina.
Thank you. So before I get actually started into the next two items.
Do you have an announcement to make?
No, I just want to go through some background.
Go right ahead.
So we do have two public hearings on Downtown Development Investment Program, and we have not had any requests for DDI, as we refer to them, since the policy was readopted in 2013. So the policy's been around for a while, and I just wanted to kind of go through a little overview of the Downtown Development Investment Policy before we go into the actual agenda items.
You got the floor.
All right. So I'm actually just going to kind of give a quick overview straight from the adopted policy, just as a refresher for both the town council, the public, and our two applicants that we have in front of us tonight, that it was based on the town council's decision that the general welfare of the residents of the town is directly benefited by a vibrant and growing geographic center of the town, which is our village district, and we have an adopted village district area plan to provide a guide on how we would like to see the character of our downtown area develop. And that also through the development of our downtown area, that it should stimulate private sector investment, economic growth, housing opportunities, and job creation, and that is also essential to the vitality of our town. And that in order to encourage that it may be necessary to stimulate development in the Village District due to the challenges of development. We do have some greater development standards in our downtown area that may not have to be completed in our regular commercial districts. And so for projects located within the village, the town will consider on a case-by-case basis specific downtown development investment by the town through which the town may share in the expenses related to public infrastructure and site improvements and/or waive certain development-related fees in association to development within the village district. And so basically how the policy is written is that the town has the opportunity to consider investing in projects within the downtown area, of which we can invest up to $25,000 or 50% of the public infrastructure price cost. So that's the right-of-way in, I guess you want to call it, not on the private property. So this wouldn't help for any things that they have to do on their own property, a parking lot, any type of landscaping that they have to do or improvements to their structures, just sidewalk, road widening, things of that nature, streetscape elements. And then we also have the ability to waive development-related fees. And the process for review and consideration of a downtown development investment request is that an application gets submitted to me, the Director of Planning and Zoning, and then I call a meeting of the Downtown Development Committee, of which the policy assigns the Assistant Town Manager, so we have Daniel Weeks as the special project in administration, sitting in that role on our committee. And then it's also the Director of Building Code Enforcement, which is Ricky Blackman, our Director of Economic Development, Jenny Mizell, our Director of Engineering, Kendra Parrish, our Director of Parks and Recreation, Len Bradley, and then myself as the Director of Planning and Zoning. So what we do is we call a meeting and we ask for the applicants to come in, and our meetings have lasted about an hour where we just ask them questions, we review their application with them. And the application, you have copies of their applications in your packet. You can see there's a whole form that they have to fill out, answer a lot of questions, give us information about their projects. And so based upon that meeting, then we get together, the DDI committee gets together separately, and we discuss the merits of granting that, the request. And so the items in the policy that we are required to consider when looking at a DDI is obviously the project must be located within the boundaries of the village district, the type of the business and the likelihood that it would serve to diversify the existing tax base or employment base of the village district, add appropriate density to the village district, provide needed services to the community, increase the aesthetic character of the area, provide opportunities for tourism, or otherwise contribute to the town's previously established growth principles of evoking a sense of place. Also, inclusion of certain construction and design features to increase the aesthetic character of the village district, preserve historic structures, provide significant and proper architectural features, provide 3-story buildings versus 2-story buildings, incorporates residential above commercial, provides on-street parking, includes public art, and other similar factors. And then also that they provide public amenities such as shared parking, pocket parks, or recreational opportunities, or otherwise enhance the character of the village district. So a lot of information there. I just wanted to give that background before we got into these of reminding us where we were and what we had set up as our policy and our basis for considering and evaluating a downtown development investment request.
Gina, is it fair to say that this is a relaxing of some of these restrictions on the village district that will hopefully mean more investment, more growth? Is that a fair statement to make?
It's not necessarily relaxing the requirements versus we are participating in the cost of to do some of those.
Okay.
And then waiving development fees, which we don't do anywhere else.
Okay. I call it relaxing, but that's good. Fine with me. We'll call it waiving.
And so the thing, our goal is that in the downtown area, we need to have all of the infrastructure completed because our roads are so narrow, as you all experienced with our retreat.
Sure.
And the homework assignments that we've done going out into the village district, that road improvements and sidewalks are incredibly needed if we're going to continue to expand businesses.
Gina, it was a very good explanation. Is this something that that's on the website?
It should be out there. If it's not, I will make sure that it
Thank
is.
you.
Yes, it's Town Policy Statement 33.01.
Okay. I just think as we're going forward, I think it'd be great for people to be able to see what we're
Very
trying
good.
to do.
Right. We
good.
need to get that,
Yep.
the village.
Yeah, I'll check it.
district going.
I believe it was put out on the Economic Development webpage, but I'll verify.
Okay, thanks.
Okay,
Open for business.
That's right.
we ready?
Ready?
Again, agenda item 6F, public hearing, 14 DDI 01 Mims House, downtown development investment request. Again, Gina Clapp.
All right, so now, our first request that we received was for the Mims House. As we're aware, several months ago, the site plan was brought in and was approved to allow for the official conversion, once again, of the Leslie Alfred Mims House from residential to a banquet facility, and renovations are well underway. And in the audience, we have Brooke Everhart, who's one of the owners of the facility, and they have requested two parts for their downtown development investment request. They did request the 50% or $25,000 to go towards the public infrastructure expenses, and their expenses far exceed $50,000, and so it would be a $25,000 infrastructure request as well as waiving of the development-related fees. And so, just as a little reminder of what they're getting ready to start working on out there, it's not only the interior improvements to the structure, but they also have a lot of landscaping that they're going to be doing, which is all private improvements. But they also have to do improvements to Avon Ferry Road, add sidewalk along the frontage along Avon Ferry Road. There's some street trees required as part of the town's typical sidewalk and streetscape features, as well as a bench and maybe something else along there. And so there's a lot more significant infrastructure required there than would be typically required of a typical commercial elsewhere in town. And so basically, the DDI committee had met, and the DDI did recommend approval of their full request for the $25,000 towards the infrastructure improvements. We felt that the sidewalk was connecting to the existing sidewalk network that we have, and then would provide a much-needed connection to the Mims Park once that was completed. And then also, the road improvements in that area are greatly needed as well. There's also some minor water, sewer pipe upgrades in that area as well that they need to complete that will greatly enhance the water system in the downtown area. And so we did recommend for that, and then we also recommended the waiver of development-related fees, which are estimated to be somewhere in the vicinity of $9,000 to $10,500, plus the building permit fees that could be somewhere in the realm of up to about $4,500 once all is said and done. And we felt that the Mims House, as we all know, it's preserving a very significant structure for the town of Holly Springs. It's our town seal. This project will significantly boost capital investment and will bring hundreds of people to downtown Holly Springs each month. They will be getting people into a significant structure for Holly Springs. They're going to increase pedestrian activity, beautify downtown, and they're going to be adding a lot of jobs. And if you're not familiar, and I'm sure Rick would like to share some information with you too, that their premise is trying to source local vendors and to build local Holly Springs businesses as their vendors, primary vendors for events in their structure. And so part of the DDI committee, we also have to consider if there's performance criteria that if we give money or waive fees, what do we expect in return from the applicants? And so this is the suggested performance criteria, and that we would expect them to bid out the public infrastructure so we are getting the best price. They can choose whoever they choose to actually complete the work, but we will only reimburse them at the rate of the lowest bid that was actually received. The Department of Engineering must inspect the work prior to acceptance of the improvements. Once we accept the improvements, then the applicant has to submit to engineering an invoice for that work, and then we will reimburse them. That 1 year from granting of the DDI, they need to come back and give a presentation to the town council of where they're at and how things are going for their business. And then also, one of the things that we've also added in here, if I can get this to go back, is getting the road through this area actually dedicated to the town. What we are requesting is for that road to actually be dedicated to the town. There is a current cross-access agreement. It's private property right now, and there's cross-access agreement between the church and the Mims House and the town's property. And so what we would do is we would continue to allow the current cross-access easement stay in place, and that the property owners of the Mims House and the church would be responsible for all the maintenance until such time that we actually develop the park and actually start using that for a public access point to the park. And then at that time, we'll take over the maintenance of that road. With that,
Does that mean we will not do anything to the road until that's standpoint? No resurfacing, no nothing?
No.
Okay. Just want to make sure I understood. Okay. Questions or comments from Gina at this point?
I'm comfortable with the performance criteria that was listed here. One thing, and it would involve probably a change of the policy, but I would actually, in general, not specific to this particular petition, but I would actually probably feel more comfortable when the recipient of the investment comes back after a year, that be when they get reimbursed. Because the only concern I would have, and I don't have a concern here because I see they have a lease to own contract with the owner of it, but I'd be concerned about businesses using this to flip properties. So I would want them to at least stick around for a year, and then when they give their presentation, that sort of provides them the ability to get reimbursed. But that would be a complete change of the policy. But as far as what you brought up now, I'm okay with it.
You're talking future.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean,
Wanna make
just-
sure.
We'll
yeah,
take a look at it.
We've never really talked about this
Yeah.
before,
Yeah.
and this sort of made me think about properties that would take advantage of this
Okay.
and then use it to flip properties.
Mhm.
And actually, that was, when I started reading about this, that was my initial concern, and then it was eliminated when I saw that they had a lease to own, because I know there have been there's been a lot of turnover with a lot of different players at that Mims House over the years.
Yes, sir. Has. And what I've seen from the outside, it's looking real good. Stick with the program, all right?
Is there something you can put in the motion that, instead of delaying them getting the money, to help them, say if they do sell it, they can't sell it or transfer it
We can't prohibit somebody
without bringing the money back, reimbursement,
Well,
Probably not.
rather than holding up for a whole year?
Well, that's not.
No, that's not
I'm
here.
not suggesting
Not
that.
for this
That's,
one.
he's
Not here.
requesting
I'm
that in the
suggesting-
future.
Going forward.
Not in
I'm
this-
suggesting
not here.
that for a revision of the
Yeah.
policy.
Okay.
For the future.
But right now.
For the future, yeah.
It's not part of this.
Okay, so it's not part of, okay, got it. That's okay.
We still
Do
have,
we have
a
the suggested motion?
no, not yet. We still have a public hearing we got to
Sorry.
open and close. No one signed up. Did you want to speak? You can. You get to watch the screen, too, that we talked about earlier.
My name is Brooke Everhart. I live at 304 Steedmont Drive.
Sure.
And I'm here to represent the Leslie Alford Mims project. My business partner Priscilla couldn't be here tonight, so I'm speaking on both of our behalf. Most of you are familiar with the history of the Leslie Alford Mims house, as it sits in the heart of downtown Holly Springs and appears on the town seal. The house boasts dramatic architecture and exudes vintage charm. Unfortunately, the house has not been able to reach its potential for best and highest use and has been severely neglected over the past decade. Priscilla and I acquired the property last summer and immediately began work to restore it to its traditional beauty and turn the house into a booming event facility. Our main goal in our journey was and has always been to preserve the house's historic significance and to restore it as the most recognizable landmark in Holly Springs. Our focus is to protect the integrity of the house, preserve the historic details on the interior and exterior, accentuate features, and uncover dramatic detail, all to provide an establishment that Holly Springs community can be proud of. We hope that many local businesses will economically benefit from the Leslie Alfred Mims event venue. The average couple planning a wedding spends $30,000. Within that budget, numerous vendors are contracted and hired to perform or provide a service. Keeping in mind the rental of Leslie Alfred Mims House will not be restricted or limited to weddings, all businesses, organizations, and individuals involved with planning or hosting an event will benefit. Weddings and events will create a demand for certain local services that will economically benefit the town. Some of these services include, but are not limited to, local bakers, alcohol distribution services, clothing boutiques, hotels, restaurants, entertainment services, florists, salons, event theme rentals, tailors, photographers, transportation services, and so forth. We greatly hope to help foster the birth of new businesses. For example, it was recently brought to my attention that a Holly Springs native and her sister have plans to open a vintage rental company in the downtown area in the near future. With the opening of the Mims as a venue, she now sees a direct market for her services and is excited to bring her dream to life. I was more than thrilled that our project could inspire another female business owner. As can be assumed, restoring and maintaining a historic property for commercial use is a lofty investment. As we have started the renovation process, there are numerous unexpected projects that must be completed in order to maintain the longevity of the home, which requires significant financial investment. The house has been neglected for quite some time, and being 175 years old, you can only imagine the work that has been and will be required to prevent further deterioration. Extensive wood rot, rapid mold growth, severe roof damage, disintegrating brick that has resulted in crumbling chimneys, and broken windows are just a short start to a long list of repairs the house requires to continue in existence. In addition to structural repairs, we have had to correct issues inside the home due to poor craftsmanship of previous hired artisans.
Can you conclude fairly quickly, please?
Yes. In order to continue our improvements, meet the guidelines set by the town, and open for business, we're asking for approval for this grant. We feel confident that with the support of the town, we will build a thriving business that will continue to have a positive impact on the community for many years to come.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We're looking forward to
Oh, I can't wait for our tour.
Same here. At this point in time, we'll close the public hearing. Further discussion? Any other questions of Gina?
No.
Okay, let's go to one motion, as I recall.
I'm sorry, I wanted to, we have a member that's representing the church, and there was just a concern about the right-of-way dedication with maybe the church has to have that joint buy-in to the right-of-way dedication. And I don't know if maybe we want to reword it, that we would recommend that with their buy-in. I don't know, John, and we've talked about this in the past, the right-of-way dedication. We do need the church.
Is there a change in the, I hear the point. I know what the point is. Is there a change?
Joint use agreement right now, isn't it?
That's what I thought.
Yeah, I mean, we would condemn the church's interest if we needed to.
Matt.
The church's interest in the right-of-way
Right.
is nothing more than obligatory to the church, that they have to pay money to maintain this easement. They have a right to use it, but they have to pay money. So it would have very limited, very low fair market value that we would have to pay to the church, because their interest does nothing but create a burden on them for it to maintain this private road. So, you know, my thought was we were going to get this dedication from the landowner for the right-of-way, for the underlying fee owner. When we go to open the road, when the Mims will approach the church and, you know, work out a deal with them and address their concerns at that point. But the church's position has always been that they wanted to keep that open,
Open, of course.
and there's no better way to do that than to make it a public right of way. The church may have the position of worrying about the available parking and the handicap parking, and we can address all that with a site plan for the road.
How would this motion make that incorrect, or?
It wouldn't. This motion is a requirement that the landowner dedicate dedicate it with the plat. So the time of the platting of the additional right-of-way, that the cross-access easement is open, and formal approval of the director of the town will delay acceptance. So we're asking them to offer this right-of-way to us, but we're not accepting it until such time as we're ready. It does not become right-of-way until such time as we're ready to utilize it for MIMS.
Right, that's what I thought, okay. That make sense?
That's what the E and the suggested criteria, performance
Yeah.
criteria.
Yes, sir.
I have planning, yeah. So I guess back to the motion.
So there's no change on the motion itself.
That's what I thought, yeah.
Okay, and before you go to the motion, one thing I failed to mention, I just want to verify that you're aware of it, is that we do not budget for DDI. And so part of the DDI committee, we have to also suggest where we're going to find the $25,000. And so for this project, we are recommending that the $25,000 be taken out of both the street reserves and the utility reserves appropriately for those specific improvements.
I don't think that needs to be in the motion, does it, Counselor?
No, it's in the agreement.
It's in the agreement, right?
Yeah, and I've just gotten a request through technological means. I don't believe, have you closed the public hearing on this DDI request? I don't believe that you have, and there's another, the representative of the church wants to address the council or speak in the public hearing.
If I close it, I'll open it. I know how to do that.
Thank you.
Name and address, please.
John Adcock, 7400 Rouse Road, Holly Springs. Member of the church. I represent the church in regards to the Mims House special exception. We worked out some parameters as far as the parking and things go. Church has nothing but strong support for the Mims project, number one. I'm a little concerned about as I was here for another matter, actually, and I'm concerned as a representative of the church regarding the dedication of the right-of-way. I wasn't familiar or aware that that would be something this project would pursue. My opinion of it is, at this point, would be that without the churches, and I think Mr. Schifano has pointed that out, that without the churches joinder in the dedication, it would be an effective dedication. The church has a senior property right in that road right-of-way. And there is an existing agreement between the town, between the original developer of the project that is now becoming the Mims Park and the owner of the Mims House in the town that deals specifically with the maintenance and repairs of that right-of-way. And I don't, the idea that it might be dedicated to the town, but yet the town will not have any, and again, I'm not trying to be obstructionist here any one bit, but from the church's perspective, I think we'd be very concerned about the idea that this right-of-way dedication would somehow impact the existing agreement that's there now. And I don't know that it would without, as Mr. Schifano said, a condemnation action against the easement interests of the church.
Well, that was my question too, and council help, because I didn't see it changing, but I'm not an attorney either.
Yeah, I don't believe it changes. We're asking the landowner of the Mims property to dedicate to the town. That doesn't change their obligations under the agreement until the town accepts the right-of-way. And I apologize for not informing the church, because I thought that this condition would be one that would be met with applause from the church, as we would take away the church's obligations under their agreement to pave and maintain the road.
And John, I don't disagree with that position one bit. I think one of the things that's kind of a hot topic, and again, complete support for the MIMS project.
Yes, sir.
The church unanimously supports it. The condition of the road right now is it's not in good condition.
Correct.
The church has had some discussions, perhaps how can we get this moving? So that's that's kind of the position we're coming from at the moment. There's concern about the condition of the road, and there's a three-party agreement that we really don't know who is responsible for what. The town came in and took over property from the previous developer of the MIMS Park, there's express obligations in that agreement regarding the maintenance and repair of the road. So I look forward to working with John on that and getting it straightened out. But I just wanted to.
If the request of the church is to remove that condition, be my advice to go ahead and honor that request and remove the condition of right-of-way dedication.
Church is not making that request.
I'm not sure
I'm
they-
just simply
we would
expressing a
want-
concern about the effect of the dedication on the existing agreement between the three parties. And
Is there any negotiation going on here, or are we just for information?
No, just.
Information,
We're
right.
hitting
Okay.
Mr. Adcock with this cold. It's my fault that we didn't bring the church in. I really just thought the best way to get that road improved would be for the town to use it as a park entrance. Or probably the only way to get that road improved would be if the town used it as a park entrance.
I've been involved in some of the discussions, and I thought that this particular motion would be to the advantage of both the church and MIMS and the town. So I'm a little confused on that point, but I also hear your question, so.
But my point, Mayor, was that I don't think it's an effective dedication without the church's joinder on the dedication, was my point. And so that's what I wanted to bring to the board's attention. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks, John. Now we're going to close the public hearing. Gina, you're back.
Interesting meeting.
Further discussion on this issue at all?
Nope.
Okay, let's go.
Motion to enter into a downtown development investment agreement with the business owners of the MIMS House to waive certain town development fees and reimbursement up to $25,000 in public infrastructure improvements for a total expenditure estimated at $39,880.
Second.
Motion been made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. That's it. Okay. Now we go. Agenda item 6G, public hearing, 14 DDI 02 Holly Springs Counseling Center Downtown Development. Didn't we do that? No, okay. Gina Clapp,
They're back.
we're back.
So our second DDI request is from Mr. Larry Bernstein and his wife, Mrs. Smythe, for downtown development investment for 300 West Arp Street, which is the Holly Springs Counseling Center that you approved earlier this evening. And their request also was the full DDI request for the $25,000. As their engineer had alluded earlier, that their total public infrastructure expenses were estimated to be over $50,000. And then as well for waiver of the development review fees associated with this project. And so just if you're not familiar with it, it's the Johnson House is the house that they are looking at renovating. That was the house that was originally located just across the street from our parking lot on the Methodist Church property, and then got moved to Arp Street several years ago and refurbished. And now it is going to be converted from residential to a business use. And so we had, the DDI committee met, and we reviewed and met with the applicants and had some conversations with them. And as a result of it, the DDI committee's recommendation is for fee waivers only, not to participate in the $25,000 for the public infrastructure improvements. And once again, part of our reasoning behind that was the fact that they were not putting in all of their required parking, and that they need the road improvements to provide the parking necessary for their business. And so we felt that this was truly their parking lot that they had to put in was the road widening. and that we, as the town, should not participate in the construction of necessary parking to meet the parking needs for their business. However, we did recommend the waiver of the development fees because it is, they are an existing business in Holly Springs that wants to relocate to the downtown area. So it will add daytime traffic. It's not going to diversify our traffic and to bring more people into the downtown area in the evening. But then it does also add part-time jobs to the Village District area. And so it was not providing a lot of diversification or a lot of full-time employment and lunch crowd to our downtown area. So that was why the committee did recommend to only do the fee waivers. And with that, the fee waivers for this project are estimated to be between $10,500 and roughly around $12,000 plus building permits, which this one does not have as much in building permits, so those are estimated to be about $2,500. And our suggested performance criteria for this one would only be just to come back in a year to let us know how they were doing.
Mhm. Questions or comments of Gina? Seeing none? At this point in time, we'll open public hearing. No one has signed up. You want to speak? All right, please come forward. Open public hearing. Please keep it under 3 minutes if you would, sir.
It's Larry Bernstein, 105 Starwood Lane, Holly Springs. The DDI process is a new process, and we're one of two that have just applied for it. I was a little disappointed because I was hoping that the DDI prospect really was inviting and helping us partner downtown with Holly Springs as a small business. My application, I asked to be accepted as the poster child, one of your first to come down here. Against the advice of a lot of other businesses in the area, I was told that, it's too expensive to get involved. And we're a small mom and pop type setup. So really we're looking forward to, as you heard our estimate, $60,000 in infrastructure to get accepted for the $25,000, to get a reduction. And so I just want to let you guys know, I'm a little disappointed that it's not an open invitation to kind of come downtown, take a 100-year-old grand lady, the Johnson House, built in 1915, make it a part of the Village District, and leave it with a nice aesthetic value when people walk around the park, et cetera. It's just a nice addition. My wife and I are still at a point where we can make a decision to cut or run. And, $25,000 doesn't sound like a lot, but for us, it's a tremendous amount of money. So I thought I'd just let you know that based on the DDI prospect and what we read, and Gina went over the specifics of how you measure it, and I hate thinking that one project's measured up against the other. My business is involved with mental health. It's largely an intangible. Maybe you can't run up against dollars, of bringing in $30,000 to an event. But I'm involved, and on my business, Holly Springs Counseling Centers is involved with a survivor's walk, which is run twice now, the last 2 years, in November up in Raleigh. And they've had 300 walkers, which is quite an accomplishment for a local walk. I think we can bring some new things to the area. I think we look forward to growing in the area. I think we have a lot of intangibles to bring that'll bring people downtown. And but I can't put that down in dollars for you, So, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, thank you. At this point in time, I'll close the public hearing. Recap for us, Gina, the numbers again, please. That we're talking
Certainly.
about.
So the request, they had requested $25,000 for public infrastructure.
All right.
And then also fee waivers. Our estimate for fee waivers are somewhere in the realm of $10,502 to add $2,500 to about $14,000 for the fee waivers. The total would be somewhere around $39,000 if everything was granted to them. That's what's being considered. We did not take a look at any accounts to know where we would get $25,000 from to put towards infrastructure, because that was not part of our recommendation. So if $25,000 is also considered, then we have to also determine where that money is going to come from.
Well, I'd also add, we've already waived over
Yes.
$18,000
Yeah.
in improvements and delayed some other improvements as well. So there's a couple different ways to attack the
A lot of
infrastructure issue.
A lot of the cost was the infrastructure that we've already waived, the relocating the poles, the curb and gutter.
Curb and gutter.
And a lot of different things, sidewalks. Okay.
So this would be for 22,000-ish, correct?
About 15.
10 to 15.
Well, 10 to 15, I'm sorry. Between 10, okay, got it. Okay,
With the building permit is the only thing that's not
Right.
added onto this.
Correct.
That would be the 10 to 15.
So
Okay.
that's,
And our building director estimated that he would estimate to be somewhere around $2,500, but until permits are actually submitted, he really can't give a good estimate.
okay.
got it. All right. Any further questions or comments? No? Go.
Motion to enter into a downtown development investment agreement with the owners of 300 West Arp Street to waive the certain town development fees for a total of reimbursement estimated at between $10,502 and $11,802 plus the building permit fees.
Second.
Motion been made, second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Agenda item 6H, public hearing, 18 MAS A07 Schaefer subdivision, Laura Holloman.
Planner extraordinaire.
Okay, no comment on that. Okay, the public hearing tonight, last one is 14 MAS 07, the Schaefer subdivision, which for everyone involved is located on the north side of New Hill Road, consisting of just under 45 acres. This is the newly approved elementary school tract, which will be open in 2016. And of course, this is Green Oaks Parkway, which is the first entrance into 12 Oaks and also transitions into our business park on the south side. In terms of the zoning, the existing zoning, you can see the majority of the parcel is zoned R8 conditional use, which was recently done back in December. And then remaining piece is RMF 15. So we have 15.2 acres of RMF 15 and the residual 28.13 acres of R8 conditional use. Now, of course, conditional use means that there are approved zoning conditions that go with the land. These are those. Minimum building size of 2,000 square feet, facade modulation, a minimum of 12 inches in depth, roof overhangs, 12-inch minimum on all elevations, decorative garage doors if front-loaded, no vinyl exterior building material, composite PVC trim is allowed, architectural shingles will be used for roof, and all dwellings will feature a covered porch or portico. This is the site plan. You can see this is the RMF 15 product here. I'll get into the specifics with the elevations, but it will be a multifamily product, a townhome type product. And this is the traditional R8, which will feature detached single-family dwellings. In terms of the RMF 15 portion here, the gross density allowed was 15 units an acre. The proposed density here is 5 units an acre, so they're well below the maximum density allowed, even below the RMF 8, which is the traditional townhome density that we normally see in other projects. The setbacks, which in multifamily are by the entire project area, is 30 feet. And in terms of the R8 portions here, the gross density allowed is 4.5 units an acre. They're coming in at 2.63 units an acre, and that's even less than R10, which is 3.25. So they're well below the gross density in R8. The minimum lot size allowed is 8,000. The minimum lot size shown is just over 8,000 at 8,125. The maximum lot size shown is 14,615. So that comes in at an average lot size shown of just over 9,233 square feet. In terms of the minimum lot criteria, R8 has a minimum lot width of 60 feet and a minimum lot depth of 100 feet. And the setbacks that would be in play in terms of constructing a dwelling would have to feature a front setback of 20 feet, a side of 5, and a rear of 20. And those are the minimum setbacks in place with that. In terms of the landscaping, you can see that here. It's different between RMF 15 and R8 because primarily when you deal with the thoroughfare buffer, we have more stringent in single family, of course, because that's a private backyard ownership as opposed to an HOA type of deal along the thoroughfare. In terms of the RMF 15 planning requirement here, it's a B75 semi-opaque buffer, which semi-opaque has to have a minimum of 40% in that area consisting of evergreen material, and they've shown that. The western area adjacent to the school will also be a B75 semi-opaque, and the northern landscape buffer in its entirety will actually be a B40 semi-opaque as well. Street trees are required and provided throughout the subdivision and have been positioned so as not to interfere with sight distance requirements at all intersections, and will be required to provide root guards and provide a minimum of 2 species on each residential street. Again, those are our new requirements coming into play, and those are inspected by the planning department at the time of installation to ensure that the root guards were installed as well as the species type. So that's all being verified through inspections in the field. In terms of landscaping for the R8 zoning, they're required to do a B225, and they've provided that. And along the eastern edge, they're required to do a B40, which is shown. In terms of the open space in multifamily districts, so in the RMF 15 portion, the developer is required to provide a minimum of 10% of the total project area, which equates to 1.52 acres, and they've provided 1.88 by providing, at this point, a maintained open lawn area as well as a grilling area with picnic tables. And they're providing the off-street parking area for both the developed open space area as well as you can see their mailbox kiosk location. So that conforms to our requirements with that. These are the proposed elevations for the multifamily portion. The proposed single-family attached product will be attached only in the rear with storage areas, which you can see here. So you can see in the front, they'll actually be separated. So along the streetscape, it'll give a semblance of a traditional single-family detached streetscape. All proposed attached dwellings will feature a decorative 2-car front-loaded garage. As you can see, the buildings will be comprised of stone as well as decorative board and batten features, and through the use of facade modulation as well as varied roof pitch, all architectural elevations proposed meet the minimum media requirements. In terms of, want to go back to discuss the pedestrian circulation as well. Sidewalks are provided on one side of the street in the subdivision, and the greenway connection will be made to the school, and then we'll continue along New Hill Road. They are enlarging the sidewalk to 10 feet for a semblance of the greenway, very similar to what we've seen along Bass Lake Road. So that'll be in place there. Planning board discussed this tonight also before the meeting. They did recommend unanimously to recommend approval. They discussed providing water access to the grilling area for hygiene and safety purposes. And I'll let the applicant speak to that. That discussion also had a significant discussion on just open space in general and providing it. The RMF 15 I mentioned does require 10%, but our conventional zoning districts do not require open space. Development options do, which is what we've been seeing a lot of, but a straight conventional zoning district does not. So we talked about that, and Planning Board commented on pocket park designs throughout communities like this and stressed the importance of that, but did, however, acknowledge that was something that wasn't currently in our ordinance, but looked to staff and to look at that and look at changing that in our ordinances in the future. So,
Laura, what was the planning board's vote? I didn't get all.
6-0.
6-0?
Yeah, there are
Okay.
2 absent.
One more question.
Mm-hmm.
Just because I don't know, I'm curious. Prior to town council, the applicant shall submit a stamp plan from the postmaster.
Yes.
And the other part would be the UDO permit. Approximately how long does that take? Is that a fair question? I have no idea.
Yeah, that was a very good question. I was going to bring that up later. We amended that tonight just because of how the weather, didn't expect to see that within 3 hours. So we've amended that condition to be within 10 days.
Do what? I'm sorry.
Within 10 days of town council approval to receive that, that stamp plan now. That has been a comment throughout the subdivision process.
Right.
So I'll let the applicant speak to that, but they have been in communication with the postmaster in Fuquay regarding the approval of this location and design.
So if somebody asks me that question later on, I can say 10 days, 12 days, 5 days? On average. I'm not trying to pin anybody down. I'm just saying.
To have the postmaster approve a kiosk design, is that what you're asking?
That's part of it. And the other part of it is but the UDO.
The UDO amendment takes a maximum of 5 business days.
5 business days. And of course, the other part's subject to the postmaster in Fuquay, correct?
Correct.
Is that usually something we can do in 10 days, you think?
It's it's all subject to the postmaster,
Yeah,
but
exactly.
and when we've been in other subdivision reviews that we have now, we have gotten stamped plans.
Okay, you have, you say?
Mhm.
Okay, thank you. All right. Any other questions or comments of Laura? Seeing none. Oh, boy.
Yes.
It should be one motion, correct?
Just to open the public hearing.
Oh, I'm sorry, I've got the public hearing on again. Open and close, no one signed up. Now we go. Sorry.
You can say so moved, I've got it in the minutes.
That's what I was thinking.
Just with the change to number 1 within 10 days of town council approval. Okay.
I got you.
So moved.
Second.
Motion been made and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes unanimously, whatever
Thank
that
you.
is. It's a lot of them. Thank you. Thank you, Laura.
Thank you.
Looks like a nice looking.
Before we go to the consent agenda, Gina, do you have any announcements as far as what also transpired tonight at the planning board meeting? Was there any official motions or votes or anything? Okay, all right. At this point in time, 7A, consent agenda, Mayor Pro Tem.
Motion to adopt the consent agenda.
Second.
Motion made, second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. 8A, new business, Burt Track Infrastructure Reimbursement Agreement. Kinder Parish. We're getting there.
So as you may recall, back in January 6th, the Burt Tract came before the town council, and it's approximately 122 acres. It will serve 342 lots. And prior to that, and since that time, myself, John Schifano, the town attorney, and our town manager have been in discussions in doing a infrastructure reimbursement agreement. And I'm going to go over the highlights of that. We also have tonight here in this not quite back row, Crescent Communities is looking to develop this, and they have two representatives here. It's Scott Monday and Creighton Call. And we've also been in works with Matt Brubaker, who's with Cornerstone Realty. And we welcome them to our community. We're very excited. Their Crescent Communities has been in existence for over 50 years, and we're excited to see the quality product that they will be putting out here, and we feel like it will be really complementary in this area. The highlights of the infrastructure reimbursement agreement include $750,000 that would be applied towards water and reclaimed acreage, as well as water capacity fees. Another highlight is that there is a signal that will be warranted in the near future up at Green Oaks Parkway and New Hill Road. And they are contributing a fee in lieu. They're doing 26% fee in lieu towards that signal. And that's tied back to their impact of the 342 units. That was a result of the TIA, and it was in the plan conditions at Town Council on January 6th. Also, there is a fee in lieu that is going to be accepted for, they're doing their thoroughfare improvements, the widening along the frontage. There's a grass median, but due to the short frontage and it being in a curve, and there's also some vertical sight distance issues, we're accepting that fee in lieu to be used in other congested areas along, either towards the signal or along New Hill Road. The agreement is good for 8 years, and I can answer any questions that you may have. And we also have, like I said, the developers are here if there's any questions that you would like for them to answer.
Questions or comments?
Not to this point.
Pretty
No?
standard.
Yeah.
No.
Pretty straightforward.
Don't like
One of the
good.
most straightforward.
Good.
Like straightforward,
Yeah.
right?
We like that, yeah.
All right, let's
For
go to the
tonight, yeah.
clicker. B1.
Motion to enter into an infrastructure reimbursement agreement with the developer of Bird Track for water and reclaim system acreage and capacity fee credits as reimbursements for reclaimed infrastructure.
Second.
Motion made, second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Would the petitioners just stand and introduce yourself real quick? I know this is a little bit out of, but you're here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome aboard.
Welcome.
Thank you, guys.
Okay, moving right along to other business, I got a couple things. Number one, the Crosswalk Crusade is still on. We thank the police department for being a part of this, so be careful. Number two, Friday night, we had another and probably the biggest anti-bullying event, my passion, that we had at the Cultural Arts Center. We had over 100 people there. And we're going to move on and continue on. And today we got some approval from the town, or from the county school board, Dr. Marvin Conley, to start another campaign on safe schools that we're working on with the anti-bullying campaign. And lastly, this evening, which nobody saw probably here, at 6 o'clock, although I did, and you did too, at 6 o'clock on WRAL, one of the stars in our group, Len Bradley, I believe is his name,
And the mayor.
and one of the non-stars, me, was on WRL for 4.5 minutes. I even timed it with my stopwatch. And we talked about the North Main Athletic Complex. They did a great job. And David Crabtree even said something to the effect, build it and they will come. At least Holly Springs hopes so, and I think they will. And tell us, and Candace Sweat was the one who came down, and she did a great job in the interviews. But Len he made me look short. Never mind.
I didn't say a thing.
I just leave it there. But it was very good for Holly Springs, and we talked about all the things. And Daniel, thank you for your help on getting some facts put together real quick. And Jenny isn't here, but we had a plaque that showed the whole setup for the process, and they got a good picture of that too. So I had a good time, and that's about what I got.
I just think, we've had 2 brutal weeks of school closures and everything else. The town's been affected, but I think, again, our Public Works Department, the police and the fire have all done a wonderful job, and I think we continue to get accolades from citizens of other towns passing through and commenting on how good a job our town has done as far as snow removal and the safety of the streets that they traverse when they come through here. And this goes to the quality of the people we have working. So if you'd pass my best wishes to the town departments that really did a fantastic job.
I'll be glad to do that. And as Chief Herring has reminded me on a number of occasions when we were trying to decide when to open town hall, he always reminded me, Holly Springs roads are a lot more, a lot clearer than those outside of town, because sometimes you do get the feeling that the roads are clear, but once you leave those town limits, you can, they're not as safe to travel. And that's really a credit to our Public Works staff and also our Parks and Recreation staff. They make sure that you can get to this building safely, because they're out here a lot of times before, 7:30 in the morning cleaning the sidewalks.
I think you can probably pass along to all the staff, from all of us, our appreciation to the quality job that they did.
On that subject, they did a great job, but on that subject, I was driving down Kildare Farm Road, coming from, I guess, is that Cary or Apex?
Carry on this guy, yeah.
Absolutely filled with potholes. And the minute I came over the line, the Holly Springs was maybe 1 or 2.
She's right. I've seen it. Yeah.
Wouldn't be that section just past Triangle
Yeah.
Community Church,
Yeah.
right there in that area.
I was like,
Yeah.
wow.
I think that's in Cary, isn't it?
I was just gonna mention that, they got a couple of them that you need to look at on Kildare Farm Road, but they do, our roads were smooth compared to the section on,
Know exactly where you're at.
yeah, exactly.
It gets worse every
It was,
day.
I mean, I was dodging them all over the place.
Yeah, they're bad.
The minute we went over the line for the Holly Springs, it moved out. But they are 2 in each other.
One of the things I love about this whole issue and process and how good we are, I remember the WRAL truck, again, starting in Fuquay and showing from the cam, oh, these roads are terrible, everybody's in trouble. Oh, whoops, wait a minute, where are we now? There's nothing on the road. Oh, we're in Holly Springs. I love to hear that. I'm sorry, I do.
Yep.
Yeah. So anyway,
It was obvious.
what else, troops? Anything else? Managers report.
Yes, we'd mentioned earlier there was a reference made to the retreat, and for those members of the public that may not be aware, we did have a retreat 2 weekends ago. From a staff perspective, we felt like it was a successful retreat, and thanks to each of you for being in attendance and your input. It's much appreciated, and we've got some direction moving forward. But I also want to publicly thank the members of the staff, and I won't mention everyone specifically, but there are a lot of folks that put in a lot of time and effort and hours in preparing each of those topics, so that as a result of the retreat, we feel like, or hopefully you're better informed about the various issues and understand what the staff position is on those various issues.
No question. I forgot one thing I want to show everybody. I've been getting several calls. Does this ring a bell with anybody here?
Just your neighborhood.
No, it's not just my neighborhood. A lot of neighborhoods are getting these on the doors that say, business reply label, DVR Labs, Carolina Fresh Water. They're requesting that you send a sample in of this water to check your water, because you never know. However, if you have town water, you got to pay for it. But if you don't have town water, they do it for free. As I read this a couple times, and people in our neighborhood were saying, is this a town-sponsored event? The answer is no. We've checked our water, and we do it all the time, every day, not to worry. But if you see this, throw it away. Just throw it away. I won't say anymore, okay? This is what it looks like.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor, our town clerk wanted to make an announcement also.
Sure.
I was just going to say, in regard to the road cleanup, that
Yeah.
I've heard a lot of people, residents, talking about how good of a job that our Public Works Department, and I wanted to tell you something a little bit funny, and I'm not going to mention the name of the town, but another town close by, their Public Works Director called our Public Works Director and said, "How do you get the state to clean your roads so quickly?" And he says, "We don't. We do it ourselves." And you do it yourselves? And he said, "How do you do that?" And so I thought it was kind of interesting. I won't say what town it was, but its initials are Fuquay Marina.
That's not the initials, that's the name. It's F.
Oops.
Oops.
But I thought that
That's a
was
true story.
really, I thought that was really, speaks very highly of our Public Works Department.
Yes, it does.
They went above and beyond.
Mayor, you may be getting a phone call from the Fuquay mayor concerning that.
I have already.
At some point in time.
I have already.
Might be the Kerry, too.
Counselor,
Yes, sir. There are a couple of matters to discuss pursuant to 143-318.11A.
I never
Three,
believed
to
it.
discuss with the attorney to protect the attorney-client privilege relating to litigation matter, potential litigation matter with Fred Smith Contracting. And to discuss acquisition of some real property pursuant to 143-318.11A5. And also to discuss economic development incentive agreement pursuant to 143-318.11A4.
Move to go into closed session.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Coffee still hot?
Thanks for coming, everybody.